Welcome everyone to the Riverside Doctor Series. Today we have a special guest. This is Master Police Officer Valerie Young from the Newport News Police Department, and she's here to talk to us about identity theft and scams.
Thank you very much for the introduction. I do appreciate that. We're going to go over some things concerning scams, especially in light of the pandemic. We're seeing an increase in certain types of scams, and we're going to show you also something new that I have not shared with a lot of groups before, and that's about what to look for with what we call skimming devices. And these are devices that are put on machines, whether it's an ATM or at a gas station pump, to go ahead and obtain your information. So one of the things too we're going to go over is what is identity theft, because especially in light of nowadays, we're seeing more and more people, of course, are wearing masks. We don't recognize people anymore. A lot of things now are being done online or through virtual, so we're losing that connection with it. So just to let you guys know that identity theft is a crime in which someone wrongfully obtains and uses another person's personal data, for example, their social security number, bank account information, PIN numbers, in some way in which involves with intent, fraud or deception for economic gain. We've had some people who will tell us that they have had a problem with identity theft and they don't realize that the person has to have the intent to gain something. That's where the law comes into play. So just to let you know. So again, just to let you know also the law changed as far as how the punishment is. That was effective July 1st, 2018. Now, if it's under $500, the value of the fraud, it's a misdemeanor. If it's over $500, it's a felony. Who is at risk? Everyone. Doesn't matter who you are. This includes children, elderly, and even the deceased. Painstaking, time-consuming to recover from. It's very difficult. A victim spends hundreds of hours recovering from identity theft. We have seen where sometimes people will get a social security card for a child. They don't secure the location of that social security card, or even for birth certificates. And unfortunately, sometimes when there have been burglaries in people's homes, people can locate those items and can use them later on for identity theft. Who commits this type of crime? Many times commits the common criminal, family, friends, and roommates. Organized crime, mafia gangs, we don't have that so much around here. Insiders, dishonest employees, and terrorists. How can your information be compromised? And this is where we tell people you are in charge of trying to keep yourself safe. You are in charge of preventing things from happening. A stolen or lost credit card. A lot of times we'll have people who will misplace something, or actually who will turn around and just leave something out in the open. It's very important not to do that. Limit what you're keeping in your wallet also. I have seen some people's wallets where they look like a huge textbook. They're just full of credit cards, full of money, full of information. Dumpster divers, we still do have this, and especially in light of the pandemic, we've been having a lot of people that have taken the time to go through things in their house and decide, I'm going to declutter, get rid of old documents and that type of thing. And instead of shredding it, they're just throwing it into their trash cans or into dumpster bins. So people will go by and look for your stuff. Internet hacked information. Again, this is something to kind of keep in mind, that a lot of us don't realize we use the same password for multiple accounts and we think that's okay, that's safe, nothing's going to happen. Or we turn around and we just don't put a secure thing on there. And one thing to never do that a lot of people will do is it'll say, this website will say, do you want us to store this password? And a lot of people out of convenience will go ahead and check off yes, because some people can't remember their passwords, or some people just think it's much more simpler step just to go ahead and have that password already remembered. That is not something you want to do. Dishonest employees, this is where we're having a problem too, where we've had some people who have to have possible healthcare workers to come and take care of them. Many healthcare workers are honest, good-working, hard-working people. It only takes sometimes one person to make everybody look bad, and we have had some reports where we've had people who've come in to help take care of someone, and again, the victim has allowed their pocketbook or wallet or other vital information either out in the open or not locked up, secured, or even given to a relative for safe holding, and the person that is working for them and their employee taking care of them may get their information and compromise them. Stolen from mailbox. Again, we don't have that so much happening, especially during the pandemic lately, because everything has been mostly done online or through virtual. And scammers like bogus emails, false businesses, and sites on the internet requiring personal information. I'm going to show you, I'm not sure how well it's going to show on your end, but I'm going to show you what it looks like, what to look for as far as for websites that are not legit. So this is one here, and just to kind of let you know, again, I apologize for the way it looks if you're having a difficult time seeing it on your end. Just to let you know, some things to look for are words that are misspelled. Keep in mind, like for example, say you decide you want to order something from Old Navy, and you turn around and you type in the search thing for Old Navy. When Old Navy pops up, a lot of times the first thing that pops up is not necessarily the legit website. It might be an ad or something or another thing that's going to take you off to a site that may look like it's actually Old Navy. So again, make sure you're going to the actual website and everything. If you get an email telling you or advising you that you've made an order, and let's say you did place an order to Amazon, for example, for something, and you get an email from Amazon stating that your recent purchase, there was a problem with it, and that you need to go ahead and send them your information on your credit card for your recent purchase, please do not do that. Most of these companies have ways of directly contacting you, and if you've been a customer of theirs for a while, you will know what to do. Anything that does not look legit or you kind of get second thoughts on, do not open up that email. Do not go onto the link, because once you've done that, you've opened up your computer for compromise for hackers to go ahead and get into. Some terms involving identity theft too, sometimes if you hear people talk about this, and to let you know how they do it, you may have heard the term carder. That's a person who will take a stolen credit card or debit card information and selling the information on the black market. Some of you might have heard something called the dark web, and that is a side of the internet that most of us law-abiding citizens don't ever use. But unfortunately, some of these criminals, when they obtain people's information, they'll sell your information on there so people can go ahead and get your identity, take it over. And people get paid big bucks for it. Sometimes, like for example, when you go to a restaurant, you want to make sure that if you're paying with a credit card, you see where your credit card is going. You may have it where your waiter or server takes your credit card over to the register to go ahead and run it through. That's fine as long as you keep them in your site. If they're going where they're having to go out of your site, I suggest you don't do that. Either you go directly to the cash register and pay for it, or use cash. Because sometimes what happens is some people do put these skimming devices on the card readers when you're paying at a business, and they will go ahead and send that information to somebody to start using your credit card. This may happen, and some of you may have had it happen, where all of a sudden you get a kind of a strange purchase on your credit card, and your credit card may alert you and say, hey, did you make this purchase? Or you see all of a sudden maybe $5 here for gas, $10 here for a snack. What the people are trying to do is they're trying to go ahead and see how much you have, your limit on your credit card is. And they'll start with small purchases because they think that you won't notice. Phishing just means simply these are computer hackers who are going to try to imitate legal or legitimate companies, and emails like the one I just showed you previously, and fake websites to trick people into sharing personal information. This is something to be careful about. For example, if you use Facebook, a lot of times when you use Facebook and you might see an advertisement pop up or something that might interest you, and then you click on the link, and then, or even if you're on your email and you see certain things that pop up, advertisements, and you start clicking on those links, what starts to happen is the next time that you get on your email or your Facebook, those links will automatically start popping up because they know what your interest is. But what's happening is some people who are hackers are also noticing that, and they'll start trying to put their links with theirs and to kind of direct you or redirect you into a false site. Once you've clicked open that link, then you have allowed your information to be able to be released. So be very careful about that. I mentioned before about skimmer devices. This is a reader that is often attached to an ATM machine or at the gas pumps where you swipe your card. It reads and it stores your information. And the thing that's interesting about these is the skimming people are getting very, very smart, because now they're making it where a lot of times before they put a skimming device on it, they would have to come back within a certain amount of time and take that device off in order to obtain the information. Now, when they can put the skimmers on, now they could actually have the information sent to their computers. So they're getting it like off, off site. It's no longer getting it on site. So sometimes they can leave these skimming devices for days, weeks, or months, however long it takes before somebody will notice it or find it. And a lot of times when people find it, to be honest, that's one of the reasons why we tell people when you go to get gas, don't ever get gas from the end gas island pumps, because a lot of times the cashiers don't see those particular pumps, don't monitor them as well, and with the signs and whatnot they may have on the windows, it's hard to see. We recommend that you use the middle island pumps, because that way it's ensuring those are the ones that the clerks can see. A lot of times the clerks do not check every day the pumps to see if there's skimmers on them, so usually if you stay in the middle pumps, you'll be okay with that. Electronic interception, just to kind of let you know again how people are getting these things, just to kind of show you as far as what some of these devices may look like. They're going to put them into there. If you look towards the bottom, you'll see a big green one right there. And just to let you know, a lot of your ATMs and all will have like the bottom row there, what they may look like. When you go to an ATM and you go to get money out or do some type of a transfer or transaction, there's nothing wrong with you going ahead and grabbing hold of that ATM where you put your card at, give it a good yank. If it comes out or if it appears loose or you see an extra piece of plastic or something on it, do not put your card in there. There is a good chance there could be a skimmer on it. The bank that I go to, I know they actually put a really kind of interesting sign on the outside, because it says on there, please give our card reader a good yank. A camera is here at all times. We're going to be watching for people putting skimmers on it. So your banking facility should already have some things in place, but still things can get by. So again, give it a good yank and everything. If you see it's loose, if you see the frame around any part of the machine, even where you punch the numbers at, is loose, do not put your card in. Alert your banking facility that could be a skimmer on there. So just kind of like I said, look for that if you can. Usually we find people that give a good yank. That's how you can tell if there's one on there or not. Okay. I'm also a very firm believer that I like to go into a bank and withdraw my money, make any kind of transactions that way. I don't really like to use ATMs very much. And the same thing with getting gas too. So here's what skimmers are. Very, very tiny, just to kind of show you what they look like. You can see they're very, very tiny. And I'll be honest, I cannot imagine the work that goes into making one of these. They're very small. They can be very easily hidden and everything. But again, in order to get these onto these devices, a lot of times you're going to have to pry something to squeeze it in. So that's why we're saying look for the spacing, look to see if anything's loose, if there appears to be a little bit of a crack, something like that. Again, we're just showing you some of the ones that we got from our department from different cases that we had worked. You can see with holding the hand here, this one was put on the side where we talked about that frame that goes around where the numbers are that you punch your account number in or your PIN number into. You can see how small it is, and you can see where the metal part is. That's showing you where the frame was at one point, and they just hit it behind the frame. They pried it loose, stuck it behind there. But again, keep in mind that by prying it loose, it showed the person, actually a customer caught this, saw that the edges did not meet evenly. So that's something to go ahead and look for if it's not meeting evenly. Again, just showing you some more. This is kind of a little bit hard to see, but just showing you they're very, very small, very easy to use. Check washing has become a problem with the pandemic. This is where people will turn around and when they get your mail or they'll get your checks, or again, like we used the example earlier, it could be maybe a family friend or relative that might steal a couple of your checks that you may have already written out. And what they do is they will use certain chemicals to literally actually wash the ink off the check and change it. A lot of our pens are not what I call washer-proof. They can be very easily, the ink can be very easily lifted off of the paper when you dry it and everything else too. And even if you rewrite the check can still go through the bank. It will still go through the machine as a legitimate check. So one thing to keep in mind is if you do write checks, you might want to make sure that you go ahead and get certain types of pens, and I'll show you some here in a moment. This is just showing you how if somebody had washed a check and the person had made the check out to the cable company showing you for the amount for like $10, and then after a few times they keep watching it, you can see where the ink starts fading. And then after a while, when they get to the point where the ink is no longer there, they actually press the checks too again. So they're nice, smooth, no creases, no wrinkles. It doesn't look like it's been, anything done to it. And then they can just go ahead and they can rewrite it. While they're doing the check washing also, what they'll do is where your signature is, they'll go ahead and copy your signature and get that down pat. So they're forging your signature. They'll know how to use it and how your handwriting is. A lot of times, many places nowadays, it's unfortunate they don't really require signatures. A lot of places nowadays, especially everything now going on to online, it's basically you check the X box, if y'all know what I'm talking about. You check the X and it's acknowledging that you agree with whatever, you're consenting to whatever they're saying now. So it's really increased the identity fraud because now there's no longer any actual signatures or in-person signatures. These are some of the pens that you could use. It's a Uniball Signo 207. I'm not doing a personal recommendation as far as saying this is the only one to use. This is just to give you an example because I've had some people will say, well, I've never seen these type of pens or anything. You can usually get these pens at a better like stationery store or office supply store. They do have them there. And they're good to have. I also encourage using them for not only for checks, but for any kind of legal documents that you need to sign or fill out, because in that way it's not going to have a chance of being ever washed or altered with later on. Another thing we've been having a big problem with, and I know some people have just seen recently, the clearinghouse. I have to laugh when I have the clearinghouse. You could win $1 million for every month the rest of your life and everything else too. This is very tempting, especially nowadays with all the economic problems and everything that people are having. If somebody is calling you and telling you won the lottery and everything else too, and you don't ever remember entering anything, again, keep in mind that's a warning sign. And we have a lot of people who unfortunately will kind of fall for that. So be really careful. If you turn around and you have somebody who says that, okay, you've won $10,000, but for us to deposit into your account, you need to send us a check for $300 and we'll reimburse you at $300. That is a scam. That is fake. You don't win. You don't get something for nothing. Let's put it that way. You're not going to go ahead and they're offering you something supposedly for free. It's not free. If they're trying to tell you got to pay something, they're trying to get that bank account information. They're trying to get at the bottom of the check your number, your account number. Once they have that, they will drain you, and they've done that to a lot of people. So again, be very, very careful. We will have people, solicitors that will call over the phone. They will turn around and say that, hey, we need to verify some information, or that I'm from, let's say, Capital One Bank. We just saw a recent charge on your account. We need you to verify. Could you please give us your PIN and your social security number and everything? Most of you know that if you have an account with these establishments, they're not going to call you like that. They're going to go ahead and a lot of times they'll send you a text or an email, or if they do call you, there are certain words that you've set up, passwords you've set up ahead of time for them to go ahead and confirm that, yes, this is you. For example, this is not my password or anything like that, just to let you know. But if I had it where, like, my credit card called me and said, we've had some possible fraud action on your credit card, they would ask me a series of questions such as, what was the name of your first dog? What is your favorite flower? You want to make sure when you set up password questions for your companies that you set up ones where it's not what's your date of birth, or what was your maiden name, or if you do ask the question, what is your maiden name? This may sound silly, but I know I told one person and she used it and it worked for her. She used her maiden name was Washington, for George Washington. Washington was not her maiden name, but she knew she could remember that, and that would be her password. And it was really good because it wasn't compromised, because when somebody did try to get into her account, they were actually using her real maiden name, and that's how they got detected and they got caught, because they knew that wasn't the correct one. So again, just be really careful about that. Never release your PIN number over a phone call or the internet. And again, we all know sometimes we hear the government is calling. This is the IRS. We're going to come to your house. You owe money. Again, do not let your emotions get away with you. Don't be scared. I know that some people get very worried, especially if they owe money to the IRS, or even if they don't owe money to the IRS. Just the thought of the IRS is very intimidating for a lot of us. So again, just be very careful, because I can tell you right now, first of all, the IRS, they're going to send you a letter first, letting you know if you owe money, or if there's been some kind of discrepancy where maybe they might even owe you money instead of you owing them. They're going to follow up the letter with numbers for you to call. And I don't mean to sound negative, or like I'm trying to be racist or anything, but if you call a number for the government, somebody from the government says they called you, and you call a number, and you're getting somebody that is obviously not from this country, then that is not the IRS. I'm telling you right now, that's not the IRS. So most of the IRS calls are going to go to Pennsylvania or to Texas. But again, if you get that caller ID on your phone and it says it's the IRS and it does say Pennsylvania or Texas, again, make sure you've got that letter first, because the letter will have a reference number and a phone number for you to call and follow up. Do not give out personal information at all. If you happen to go on the internet too, I know when the stimulus checks came out for a lot of people started going online automatically, checking with the IRS. There were many, many IRS fake sites where people were picking it up, because in order to check on your stimulus check, you had to put in your social security number and I believe your date of birth. So people were getting that information. So, I kind of looked at it this way. If you were going to get a stimulus check, wait. You didn't have it before. If it's going to come, it's going to come. And if you need to, you can call the IRS directly. Do not turn around and check online for that. Because I know there's been rumors that there may be another stimulus check round coming. I'm not sure if that's going to happen or not. But again, just go ahead and call them directly. Please do not go ahead and go online and just start, putting that information in. Because we had people who found out when they went to the fake websites for checking for the stimulus checks, when they entered their social security number and their date of birth, it was stored on that site. So now again, that information can be sold on the dark net. All your social security, your date of birth, that's going to link you up to everything. So another scam that we've had, especially in light of people being quarantined, are our dating scams, where some people have been very, very lonely, very bored. They're looking for companionship, and for a lot of people, the easiest way to do it lately is through virtual stuff. So unfortunately, we find that some people will take advantage of this. And what happens is, some people may turn around and they're talking to somebody, and the person may turn around and say, I don't have a camera on my computer, so I can't see you at first. So you don't know who you're talking to. You can be talking to somebody who is a man, a woman, a kid. You don't know. You don't know who you're talking to. So you have to be careful about that. We're just kind of showing you, like somebody says, they're age, and I'm 18, that person's obviously not 18, and the bottom one is saying, do you have a camera? And no, sorry. When they don't have a camera, a lot of times they're going to start asking you a lot of personal questions. They're going to start asking you some things about yourself and what you look like. It's your physical characteristics. One thing I want you guys to be careful about with this too is that a lot of people, these dating scams, what they'll do is they'll befriend you first, become your friend first. They're going to try to keep the relationship for as long as they can on the computer or through the computer before they meet you. And they're going to go ahead and try to find out things about you, and for example, your economic status, how you are with your money and your finances, how many relatives you may have, how close you are to your family. If they start picking on that you don't have very many family members, or that you're not close to your family, and that you've got money, then they're going to go ahead and start getting a little bit more intimate with you as far as their conversations. And then they may even try to confide in you and try to tell you, oh, I've got a child or a grandchild. They're suffering financial problems. And then you might think, oh, I feel so sorry for you. And, we've been talking now for 6 or 7 months. You know what? Let me help you out. I've got the money. I can help you out. And then the money starts. And the person may actually meet you in person at that point, because now they kind of know they've gotten you. They've hooked you. And once they've hooked you, they're going to go ahead and continue to use you for your money or funding for whatever they need it for, until basically they've used all your money. So again, be very careful with this. I know some people have asked about the eHarmony and different sites like that. Again, be careful, do some research on it, depending on what you want to do. I know there have been some local churches around here that have actually gotten together, and they've kind of done a group thing with themselves. So again, it's all in what you're looking for, but be very, very careful with this. Don't share personal information with this. Grandparent scam, this is still a huge one that we have a problem with, that we continue to have a problem with. Again, people are operating on their emotions, and what happens is, somebody calling to say they're either a law enforcement officer or, a friend will call up and say, hey, this is Billy or whatever, and the grandparent might go, Billy? And they're like, no, the wrong number. So people pick up on that one, but then what they're getting smart, because what they'll do now is they'll turn around, they'll call them, they'll say, hey, grandma, grandpa, and or even if the grandparent answering the phone says something like, what? And they might try the nicknames, Nana, Mima, whatever nickname they have. And then if the grandparent turns around, especially if they call in the middle of the night and they're like, is this Billy? And the person on the other line goes, yes, this is Billy, grandma, it's me, I'm in trouble. And we've had it happen so many times. And unfortunately, what happens is if you get a call in the middle of the night regarding your child or grandchild, you're going to panic no matter who you are. That emotional part of you is going to go ahead and take over, and you're really going to be concerned. I had one case that I helped with. We actually had a lady who turned around and had talked to her, thought it was her grandson. What happened was a gentleman called her up identifying himself as a Commonwealth attorney for the state of North Carolina, and that he was at the hospital with grandson, and for this sake we'll call him Billy, and that Billy was hurt pretty bad and everything else, but that Billy could be released on bond, but she was going to have to put up with the bond. And she said, well, can I talk to Billy? And the gentleman who identified himself as a Commonwealth attorney said, certainly. And he said that, I want you to know it's going to be hard to understand him because his teeth are wired shut because he was injured in the accident. So she got on the phone, and he was all apologetic, the young man who said he was Billy, and telling her, I'm sorry, I got drunk, I had an accident, I need this money, don't let me stay down here in jail, I can't take this, I can't take it. So then she got back on the phone with the other gentleman who, again, like I said, had identified himself as a Commonwealth attorney in North Carolina, and he explained to her how he had to go about getting him out of jail or making the bond. He told her that she needed to go to a Walgreens or a CVS pharmacy, and they sell these are MasterCards. They're called green dot cards, or you might have seen the Visa vanilla cards, and to go ahead and put a certain set amount. Now with this one, believe it or not, they told her she had to put $1,000 on it. So she told them, well, this is the middle of the night, I can't get $7,000 on my bank account, and they understood that, so they gave her till 10 o'clock in the morning. So she went to the bank, withdrew that amount of money, went and got the cards, went ahead and put it through and everything else too. About 4 or 5 days went by. She never heard from her grandson. She finally called him back up, and she was like, why didn't you thank me? Why didn't you call and thank me? And he said, what are you talking about, Grandma? And he worked here at the shipyard here in Newport News. And she said, well, first of all, you didn't even tell me you were going down to North Carolina, and then you have the nerve where you got arrested and everything else, had to go to the hospital, and you didn't say anything, and you didn't thank me for the money. And he had no idea. He'd been going to work and everything. He had never gone to North Carolina. And that was the other thing too. The so-called grandson had said to the grandmother while he was talking to her, he said, please don't tell Mom and Dad because they'll kill me. Now, I'm not a grandparent yet, but I'm not going to lie. Time comes, I am going to be spoiling my children. And there's going to be times where I know grandparents do have special relationships with the grandchildren. And, there sometimes might be a little bit, I won't tell, Mom and Dad if you had some candy or something. Y'all know what I'm talking about with that, okay? Be very careful. Don't let people take advantage of that. Another thing that there's been a big problem with was a lot of these people who have the video gaming systems. Now the video gaming systems, they're computers. They are computers, especially PlayStations and everything. People buy these video gaming cards, they put them through, it goes through on your computer. Again, all your information's on there. So if you've been putting these different cards, like the iTunes, the Google Play, things like that, now your information is also on that device. So again, be very, very careful about that. Because a lot of young people, what they'll say even to the grandparent is buy these types of cards. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm a little bit click happy. I do apologize about that. Okay, so also keep in mind too is to keep a good relationship with the families and everything too. I know for me, like I said, I'm not a grandparent yet, but I do know my children's habits and everything else. And if I got a call, for example, if one of my kids called me from like Hawaii or Florida or the Bahamas, first of all, my kids They're not going to be going there because they don't have the money for one. But also, those places don't interest my kids. So I know if I got a call from there, first of all, it's going to be like, something's not right. So when you get that feeling something's not right, please go with it, because you'll find out it does help you out with that. Solicitors, this is a big problem we're having too right now. And this is something I want you guys to be very, very careful about, because we've had people calling up and telling us that there have been people saying that they're from, for example, Dominion Power, Virginia Natural Gas, and trying to say that they had a problem with the meter. And then what they'll do is they'll come to your door and they'll say, I need to get inside your house to go ahead and find out what's going on with your electric or with your gas. Keep in mind one thing, there is a reason why the meters are on the outside of your homes. It's so that people don't have to come inside your home. The only time somebody should have to come into your house is if, for example, you've got an electrical problem or a gas leak or something, and even then, the people are going to come with their credentials. They have to have their IDs. Do not let them in the house if you're by yourself. Make sure there's always somebody there with you. You're going to have people who may come by and try to sell you an alarm system, different locks. If they're from an alarm company, they are supposed to have a ID badge, not like with this, but they should have an ID badge around them with their picture, their name. Even if they work for Dominion Power and Virginia Gas, the same thing. Our waterworks people, they'll have IDs on them. If it's somebody from an alarm company, they should also have not only their ID with them, but they should also have a card that identifies that they are a certified person from the Department of Criminal Justice Services, or we call it DCJS here in Virginia. They should have that on them. If they don't have that on them, do not let them in. Do not let them in. I can't stress that enough. Also, make sure they're licensed and bonded. That's very important. Make sure they're working for a legitimate business. Now, I know a lot of times that these people come up and they'll say they're doing it, for example, for a school or something. Okay, who has sent you here? Who is your contact person? And call that person right there in front of you. See what happens. Also, make sure too, if they're in cars, kind of keep an eye on what kind of cars they're driving. You don't necessarily have to get their driver's license, obviously looking at it and everything. I really don't like, I'm not a big fan of cell phones. People know that. People who know me know that. But I will say that if you have solicitors coming in your area, these cell phones are great because you can go ahead, you can take a picture of the vehicle. And that way you don't have to worry about when an officer says, what did the vehicle look like? And you're kind of, it was a 4-door, I don't remember what make and model. You got the picture right there, and usually you can get the license plate with that too. Make sure too that you do not pay for any kind of construction job or repair job in full. Especially, around this area, we constantly have hurricanes or snowstorms or even just windstorms, where we've had this past fall, or excuse me, late summer, we had some thunderstorms that took some tree branches down. And unfortunately, some people come and take advantage of that. They'll come around and they'll tell people, hey, I'm doing your neighbor's yard. I'm getting all their trees down. I'll give you a good deal. You give me $400 when I come and do theirs tomorrow. I'll go ahead and do yours. Just pay me up front. That way you don't have to worry about talking to me or anything. Then you give them the $400. They never show up. They never show up to your neighbor's house either. So always make sure you get something in writing, and make sure you get their credentials, and make sure also that you just only pay for half up front and then pay the other half. That's going to protect you. Told you I was click happy. I apologize for that. So just to kind of keep an idea too of what you can do to protect yourself, these are some strong recommendations that we make, is to protect your PIN information. Don't give out your PIN information for anything. And the thing I'd like to suggest to you too is anytime that you use your debit card, make sure when you use your debit card, you go to a store, you put your debit card in. Always, how you go there sometimes they ask you, is it debit or credit? You have to check off either they push the red button, the yellow button, the green button. Always use your debit card like a credit card. So if I'm going into, say, Walgreens and I'm paying for my prescriptions and I put my debit card in there, you can go ahead and push the credit button. It still comes out of your bank account the same way and everything else too. But by doing that, if for some reason, God forbid, anything fraudulent happens on that card, you're covered by laws. If you use your debit card strictly as a debit card, then what's going to happen is if something happens, you're not insured. They're not going to cover you. So please do keep that in mind. Again, shred your personal information. You don't have to worry about having a total shredder if you don't have a shredder at home. But make sure like you're cutting things up even with scissors. Credit cards and all, make sure you cut them up and everything. And one thing that I recommend to do, sometimes you might see where the City of Newport News, the Sheriff's Department has a shred event. If you've had like old credit cards and everything else that you know you need to get rid of, and the shred event is coming up, feel free to take your stuff up there. It's totally free. They will shred it right there in front of you. And it's very safe and everything to do it. Make sure too that you don't respond to spam or unsolicited emails. Even with being a police officer, y'all be shocked at how many emails that people try to get through in the police department to us that are fake. I had one that I had to turn into our IT people. I had one the other day where it was talking about tutoring for City of Newport News employees for their children. And when I first saw it, I did not open the link or anything. I was like, this doesn't sound right. First of all, my kids are no longer in school. But also, if the City of Newport News is going to offer any kind of tutoring program to the employees, there would be announcements through the supervisors and everything too, and there would be a mass email that would go out. It wouldn't just go out to one employee. So I sent that email. I just forwarded it to our IT people, and I said, can y'all take a look at this? They did, and it was fraudulent. So again, be very careful about that. The city did offer another tutoring help session for employees later on, a few days later, and that one was legit because that one went out to everybody. So again, just be careful about that. Get a copy of your annual report. That's important. A lot of people don't do that. But I also want you to be careful because you're going to see a lot of times these things on TV that says, join us and you can go ahead and get your free credit score. A lot of you have probably seen many of those things. Be careful because some of these people that are giving you free credit scores, they're predatory lenders. They want to go ahead and get you to try to borrow money from them and everything else too. And they say, oh, if you open up an account, we'll give you your free credit scores. You can already get free credit scores every year. So there's we put on here as far as where the website is to get your annual report. And keep in mind, there are several credit reporting agencies. So instead of what we said annual here, you can go and you can get one at TransUnion, and then 6 months later, go through Equifax and tell them you want a credit. So every 6 months, you can check your credit report for free. It's very important to do that. Make sure too that any kind of credit cards you no longer use, close those accounts out. I'm getting older, and I know for me, I have really cut down how many accounts I have because I know for me, I don't make as many purchases anymore, and I really don't need to. And some people get these credit cards where, oh, if I come on Wednesday, I'm going to save 20%. Is that 20% really, really worth it? Because sometimes when you get too many credit cards, you lose track of what the balances are or even what the activity is on those cards. And like I said earlier, you know, I've seen some people's wallets that are just like, you know, an encyclopedia. They're just so fat with credit cards and all, and they don't even use them half the time. So limit how many that you're using. Also make sure too that if you are still getting mail, a lot of us still do get mail, make sure you're checking your mailbox, you know, every day. Go ahead, and it doesn't have to be the same time every day, but just make sure you keep it empty. And also make sure too that you safeguard your things like your Social Security card, your birth certificate, your banking information. Do not leave your Social Security card in your wallet or pocketbook. If you need to go ahead and have that, like say you need to go to the Social Security office, then carry it that day with you safely in your wallet. Don't keep it in there because if God forbid you either drop your pocketbook or wallet or you lose it or somebody steals it, now somebody's got that information. And I will tell you from victims I've helped, it is so hard to get a new Social Security card. It's like you have to jump through all kinds of hoops. So again, that's your identity. Protect it. You don't want anybody else to get that. Also, I recommend, you know, if you can, when it comes to things like your Social Security card, your birth certificate, banking information, keep it in a lockbox at your house somewhere. I know for me personally, I have one of those fire safes, and mine's a real fire safe. It's not one that just says up to 1,500 degrees because you don't know how hot the fire is going to get. And mine is bolted to the floor in my closet. So if somebody breaks my house and they want to try to steal this stuff, they're actually going to have to cut the floorboards out to get it. And that's just, the more barriers you can put up, the greater chances you have of not becoming a victim. So I just do that for my personal thing. And I also have a safety deposit box where I keep some of my things that are important to me. Like for example, the mortgage to my house, those kinds of things that I don't really need to use every day. I can just go ahead and check periodically that I need to do. Make sure too that you keep your computer updated with the virus software on there. And again, use it through the source that you got it from originally. A lot of people are going to try to say all of a sudden, hey, your virus protection plan is over. Keep with the source that you bought it from and keep up with them. Make sure too that you always check your bank statements and your credit card bills. A lot of times I've seen people who turn around and they just take their bill, they put it on the table, they don't even bother looking at it again. Oh, okay, I'll pay it online. They go online and do it. Be very careful, look at it. And sometimes I've seen them where some people will say, there's like a $10 or $15 difference in my balance than what I thought was going to be there. If you remember, I said earlier, sometimes people, when they get your credit card information, they'll start doing a charge here and there for gas or for this and that. I know I've got a really good account with one of my credit cards where I had that happen to me. I was a victim of identity theft one time where somebody turned around, took my credit card, got the information somehow. I don't know how. I try to be very careful, but they can get it sometimes. And they turned around and bought some gas in York County. Then they bought some food in Williamsburg, and then they went over to Norfolk or Virginia Beach, went to an expensive restaurant. And the next thing I know is they were ordering stuff from Amazon, and they racked up the max amount on my credit card. But my credit card my company called me when they started seeing things, and they were like, this is not your usual spending. This is not the way you usually do things. So again, have that good relationship, with your credit card company. And I really recommend using credit cards from your banking institution that's local. That way, if a problem does happen, you can go ahead and take care of it. So if you do become a victim, this is what you'll need to do, and this is why I strongly suggest for you to go ahead and, if you can, have a credit card with a local banking institution. Because what's going to happen is the minute you find out that you've been a victim, you have to call up the credit card, the number on the back of your credit card, and we also try to recommend to you to call the credit bureau companies. But you're also going to go ahead and need to file a police report. But in order to do that, you're going to have to go ahead and file an affidavit at the banking institution to go ahead and file for a report for making an ID theft. So, and you're going to have to do it in the jurisdiction it happened at. So, for example, let's say that you turn around and you had it where it happened in, like with my case, it happened in York County. Even though it happened in York County, we know that credit card purchases can be made online, this and that. But because I live in Newport News, the report was taken in Newport News. So just keep that in mind. Again, we try to tell you to go ahead and get a copy of the annual report. Make sure you file a report too as far as with the Federal Trade Commission. We've got a site right there listed as far as for listing that. It's very important to do that. A lot of people, when they become a victim, they don't want people to know about it. And we're not saying that you're advertising or anything, but this is just something to go ahead, and it helps the Federal Trade Commission with kind of keeping a track on trends and everything, and to warn consumers about what may be going on. And again, we have some other things that's listed there that you can go ahead and you can click on that will help you with directing where you need to go. But please make sure that you do report it. The nice thing about this is that with our police department, some people are very embarrassed about making a report in person about this. They feel ashamed or it was their fault. It's not. There's nothing to be ashamed about. There's nothing to say it's your fault. But make the report. Don't just ignore everything, because then somebody else is going to become a victim. So if you don't feel comfortable with making the report in person, our department has a way where you can go ahead and you can make the report by calling it in. You can go ahead, and we actually have on our police department website, we actually have a site where you can go ahead and make a police report on our website. So just make sure you write down the report number down for future reference, so you'll have that. So hopefully I helped you. I know I talk a little bit fast and everything else too, but I just want you guys to be really, really careful. I know it's been a tough time this past year with everybody, with everything. I know that even like some of my neighbors have been bored because I see all the packages being delivered and everything. They're shopping because there's not a whole lot to do for some folks with getting out and everything. But be careful. Don't allow your guard to fall. Be careful with your shopping. The holidays are coming up and everything too. Again, continue to use the people that you know. I also strongly suggest too to use your banking institutions with the credit cards. Don't have too many. And if you have to too, once in a while, this is what I do. I freeze my credit. I know how much I'm going to purchase every year with my credit cards. I know that I'm not going to be buying a house. Now, if it comes to where I need to buy a car, then I will just go to the credit bureau and I will say I need to unfreeze my credit because I'm making this purchase. But that way it protects you. So if all of a sudden you see on your thing an alert, somebody's trying to buy a car in my name, the credit's freeze. They can't obtain that money. They can't obtain that credit. So that's just something to think about. And again, you can go to the site that we had earlier as far as looking up for your annual credit report. They can take care of that for you. So, and like I told you earlier about making a report online for us, we have that listed for you right here. That's the link you can go ahead and use to go ahead and make a report on fraud. And the thing I would tell you, okay, somebody asked me a question. I'm going to try to get some questions here, so bear with me. Let's see. is there some way the last slides with info for reporting ID theft can be emailed to us? Can we do that? Okay, we can do that. We'll figure a way to let you know about too. Is it probably worthwhile to have a safe word for identity confirmation with your family? Absolutely, absolutely. That is something I really strongly recommend. I know, especially when I talked earlier about people that may have a caretaker come into the house and everything else too, that even for, and this is going to sound really mean, but even for some of the caretakers sometimes actually protect their employees, because sometimes family members will come in and be vultures and try to take advantage of that person who is, ill or needs care. So whether it's a family member or a trusted caretaker and everything, yes, having a safe word or password that you can use, that is absolutely a really great thing to go ahead and do. Let's see here. I hope I'm getting this answering. So can I comment on ID theft protection companies? Again, that is something I would say that you might want to, you're going to have to go ahead and check on that and do a little bit of investigating on your part and see what you feel comfortable with. Everything, I will tell you, all of us have been compromised at one time or another. If you went to any of the hospitals around here, they've all had security breaches and all their things. But again, what you have to look at, and we even look at as far as these theft protection companies, some of them have had breaches too. What have they done to make sure or ensure that that problem won't happen again? So do some research on it, because like I said, we're not supposed to do personal endorsements, but I would say do some personal research on them and see if they've had a breach in the past. What have they done to ensure that it doesn't happen again? So then that way, it's showing that they are taking care of situations. So let's see, grandparent scam with iTunes cards. Okay, sometimes maybe you might even have it where your grandchild may turn, the question was, would you again explain the grandparent scam with iTunes cards? A lot of the young people sometimes like to have the video games, the iTunes cards and all. They may even turn around and call the grandparent up and say, oh, mom and dad won't let me have this. I really want to have this music or this game. I really need to add on to it and all. So it's not necessarily getting arrested. It could even be something as simple as that. And again, I'm not a grandparent, but I know if I had grandchildren, I'm not going to lie, my grandkids are probably going to try to take advantage. I joke with my two children because I tell them revenge is sweet, because when I become a grandparent, I'm going to make sure I give them all the candy and then return them to their parents. Y'all know what I'm talking about with that. But again, just be careful, because they may try to con you. Hey, I want to have a video game system, or a card for it, or I want to have iTunes. And the bad thing is about that too is, again, when you go to pay for it, more than likely you're going to use your credit card to pay for it. So now your information is going through either the computer, or if you go through the store to pick it up, a lot of times they have a way of looking at the thing and identifying what kind of card was used to purchase that iTunes card. They can get into your account through the back door, through the dark web. I hope that one, did I hopefully answer that one for you? Okay. Are there any other questions? Down there, if anybody ever needs me, please feel free to contact me. We've kind of moved our office 3 or 4 times this last couple of years here. We've had some changes in the police department with where our locations and everything are, but I'm the only female officer young in the police department, so anytime that you need me, please feel free to call me or contact me. It has been a pleasure working with you, and I hope I answered your questions. Please be careful, and with the holidays coming up, I really hope you guys have a great holiday season and be safe and be healthy. Thank you.